Namaskar. Hello friends, I am Major Saras Tripathi, author of Silent Constitution, Dangerous Consequences and Maun Samvidhan Bhayanak Parinam. In last episodes we have spoken up to 5 chapters. Today I will be taking the 6th chapter, that is Hindu Temple and Property Administration and Management Act. This is the legislation that I am proposing in my book. What is the requirement of this legislation? I will just explain. Many people in our country do not know that Hindu temples, their properties, religious places and endowments are the only community assets that are being managed by government trust. Except Hindus, every other religious community has the right to manage their own religious affairs, their religious places, their religious properties, income and expenditure. So, the proposal is that Hindu temple and religious places, the endowments should be left to Hindus and government through trust should not have any say in this. Before I wrote this in my book, there have been many articles, demands from various quarters demanding for legislation from the parliament, from the government that should allow Hindus to manage their own affairs. So, the proposal is that law should be enacted by the parliament that should give structure, organizational setup and the authority, autonomy to the Hindus to manage their own affairs. Now, the question is why this proposal? It is very important to understand that every other religion except Hinduism, except Hindus in India have the right to manage their own affairs. For managing the properties, the income and expenditure of Muslims, there is a Waqf board. For managing the income, expenditure, property of Sikhs, there is a Shiromad Gurudwara Prabandhak Committee, SGPC as we call it, and for Christians there is a proper hierarchy in the church that manages all the income, expenditure, property and every other affair relating to the church. Government does not have any say. Similarly with the Buddhists and Jains and Parsis. There are 6 minorities declared by Government of India, that is the Parsis, Jains, Buddha, Christian, Muslims. They have the right to manage their own affairs, but Hindus do not have. That is why this law is required. Now, before we proceed, I would like to bring the background of this kind of discrimination. Why with Hindus? When Britishers took over some parts of India, it was East India Company that was ruling through the Madras Presidency. A Governor General was there who was managing the affairs. Later on in 1857, after the first War of Independence, the British Crown took over the affairs of India and there was a specific minister and ministry named India Minister in British government. As we know, the main aim of the East India Company was to do business, that was apparent aim. However, in real sense they were looting the nation and they knew very well that temples are a repository of tremendous wealth in India. So, the East India Company created a law that gave the right to the company to create a trust and place the administration of rich temples under this trust. Naturally, the trustees were those people who had the trust of the East India Company and their bosses. So, through trust, East India Company was managing, rather looting the properties of the temples. Later on, when British Crown took over, the situation did not change much. In 1925, a law was passed by the Britishers ruling in India that was known as Religious Places Management Act, that covered all religious places of all communities. But because of resistance from other communities, everyone else was left out of the hook except the Hindu temples. So again another law was passed that left other communities except Hindus in 1927. And through trust, the Britishers kept on looting the properties of the temples, its income, its expenditure, and how they were using was only known to them. In 1947, and our new constitution came into operation in 1951, it was expected that the rule will change. In fact, the same rule was again passed by the Tamil Nadu Assembly in 1951 that gave right to the government to create a trust and have the control of every income and expenditure in the temples. It was challenged by Shirur Mutt, and the head of Shirur Mutt fought the case up to Supreme Court, and Supreme Court gave the verdict that the provisions are very interfering and certain provisions of that act was struck down. The very fact that Supreme Court has struck down certain points shows that how interfering the government in independent India was with the affairs of Hindus. But since the temples were a milching cow, the government was not easily going to give in. With the connivance of Nehru and Kamraj in 1959, Mr. Kamraj was the Chief Minister of Tamil Nadu. The same law with certain amendments was passed, and Supreme Court's ruling was neutralized, that is Hindu Religious Places and Endowment Act 1959. The structure of this trust is like this. There are trustees who carry out the affairs of the trust, and every income, expenditure, affair, administration of the temple property is governed by the trustees. There is one administrator appointed by the government who is generally an IAS officer who works under the guidance of the trustees. So even in independent India, what Tamil Nadu government did was it carried on the same provisions that were given to us by the Britishers. This was very unfortunate state of affair. To give certain data, as you know, because of the invasion from Central Asia and barbaric races coming and destroying our culture and our temples, North India hardly had any temple worth the name, because as we know from Gujarat to Bengal, almost every big institution, library, temple was destroyed, including the Takshashila, Nalanda and many. Not even religious places, even places of learning were destroyed. Since they believe that any architecture, any sculpture is a sin, they destroyed all the temples and the whatever they could. But in down south and deep south, because of the distances and non-availability of means and various obstacles from mountain to river, their reach in southern India was comparatively late. So most of the temples that exist today are in mostly in south. To give certain data, it is estimated that approximately 90,700 temples are there in southern states. Tamil Nadu alone is having 36,400 temples, and most of these temples are rich, particularly to take certain names like Palani Sami temple in Palani, Tirupati temple in Andhra Pradesh, Guruvayur in Kerala, Padmanabh Swami temple in Kerala, and of course Tanjore, many temples. And since the Britishers has created that law under the Madras Presidency, most part of South India was under Madras Presidency. These laws more or less are applicable in all the states. It is estimated that approximately 6,000 crore rupees is the income from temples alone in Tamil Nadu, whereas the government shows only 48 crore rupees. Actual estimation is 6,000 crore rupees. There have been litigations also. Even the High Court has admonished the Tamil Nadu government and said that there are serious corruptions in the management of affairs through trust in Tamil Nadu. we can understand the enormity of property that temples are having, that is approximately 4,70,000 acres of land is with the temples, and substantial amount of this land has been taken over by the Tamil Nadu government in the name of opening school, college, university, and at certain places it had been donated to other religious groups. Not only this, the money that we donate to the temples or give to deity with so much of reverence and bhakti, that money through trust goes to the government treasury and it is utilized for various purposes, including giving subsidy to Hajis. Everything is on the record. Till 2018, subsidies were being given from government to go for Hajj to the Muslims. When certain people went to the court and Supreme Court found the merit in the case, it heard the case and said that it is not only against the Sanatan Dharma, against a secular government, but even it is against the Islamic rules that subsidy is given to the Muslims for going to Hajj, because even Islam prohibits Muslims to go for Hajj on others' income. They must earn it and they should go on their own income. And there had been resistance from even Muslim groups, but government, because of appeasement policy, was giving subsidy to Muslims. So indirectly, if you see, the Hindus were somewhere funding the Hajj of Muslims. This is the state of affair in a secular country. Now, because of the orders of the Supreme Court, that practice has been stopped now recently, but still government has all the control over the temple property. So, in this chapter, what I have recommended is to the government that please bring a legislation and stop this loot of Hindu temples and give the authority to Hindus to manage their own affairs, like you have given through Waqf Board to Muslims, through SGPC to Sikhs, through church to the Christians, and prove that you are really a secular government. I appeal to the government and the parliament that they should legislate an act that should give authority to Hindus. They should lay down a structure, organizational setup and methodology by which the trust should work, and it should be autonomous. Here there is a chart I would like to show. This is the chart. This shows the distribution of percentage of receipt income of temples. Here is a pie chart on page number 671 of the book that shows how temple income is being utilized by the government. Now here that saffron color is the only income that is left for utilization, that is also in the control of the government. Rest all is on one account or the other, it is shown expended. If I read out, it is something like this, that of this income that we give to our deity, 14% goes to the administration fees, 4% to audit fee under section 92, 25 to 40% as salary, 1 to 2% for prayer and other festival expenses. Out of total collection of temple, 4 to 10% goes to the commissioner's common good fund. This is another fund that is on the discretion of the commissioner, that is spent. Who is the commissioner to spend the money that we have given to the deity? What right the government has to spend the money that Hindus have donated to the temple or to their god? This is very, very discriminatory provision, and this law should end. So this way 65 to 70% of the income is spent by the government, and remaining 30% also no one knows how government spends, because it is in their control. And all this is being done through the Tamil Nadu Hindu Religious and Charitable Endowment Act 1959. Here it is. This law needs to be repealed, and an organization with the Act of Parliament, by the Act of Parliament, should be created where Hindus should manage their own affairs, like SGPC for Sikhs and Waqf Board for the Muslims. I appeal to everyone listening to this, watching this video, listening to my talk, to please take up wherever you are and pressurize the government if you are a part of the general population, and those, if you are a parliamentarian, please understand and make all the efforts to create a law. Thank you very much. Namaskar.